This is going to be a little bit harder for people to comprehend, but this is my industry that I've always worked in, always shown an interest in. So I have a knowledge of things that most people won't have, given that I programmed language models myself, I programmed crypto myself, I've programmed quite a few things that work in this space, and sort of have a grasp of a little bit more than most when it comes to not only the history of these companies. I'm 50 years old and been working with computers for most of my life, 35 plus years, and I've seen the changes that have occurred, and not only that, have been surrounded by industry players since an early age through my family. So this is an interesting audio, but I'm going to give you a bigger insight into some of the things that are being discussed here that you may not actually correlate to what's going on in the real world. And my warning to all of you is you are venturing on one of the scariest prospects in the future of leaving your children in pure slavery to oligarch-type families, and reversing this situation is going to become more difficult when they hide under the shadows and use these technologies to do their dirty work for them.
The era of humans being the most intelligent species on the planet is over, according to the former boss of Google's advanced innovation team.
This may or may not be true. I mean, it's given that we have a technology now that can pull up information faster for us and has some sort of brain thought pattern technology that allows it to bring up the right kind of data for us. And then with language models, we're able to talk to these AI models, and then we're able to produce results based on our language input. And these aren't super special gifts in any means. Sentience would mean that this computer has a brain, and I'm skeptical that we're at that point. Okay, the reality is I don't think computers have the ability to think for themselves. I think they are put on paths of thought by engineers, and then those paths of thought have results. And then when you put results through more paths of thought, then you end up with finer results. And then when you add multiple paths of thought together, you have somewhat of a thinking going on, but it's in a very controlled logic environment. So it isn't sentience in the real sense, but because of the speed and the internet and the access to things like graphic cards that have now got the ability to do a lot of this stuff on board mathematically, the sense that it is sentient is becoming real in your mind sight, if that makes sense. It feels like you're talking to something real when in actual fact it's just going through multiple processes very, very quickly. And as technology gets faster, it can go through these processes a lot faster. The problem with this is that it isn't sentient. It is following processes designed by engineers for specific purpose. And the intelligence against you is a database of information, a plethora of information which you just cannot know. And this then brings your ignorance into play, because this library machine is far outweighs your intelligence. You can't know things now. You are in a state of nescience, not knowing at all. There are things that this machine is going to know through its library that you would never have known even existed. That's the reality of what you're looking at here. And then as that data is scrutinized mathematically, it is then used through its mathematical process. And this is logic. So your brain has an attached thing called emotion, and that links to somewhat your spirit. And a spirit has something that this computer will never have. That's what gives you some sort of sentience, is this spiritual idea that you're somewhat not connected to your flesh. And the computer can never have this. But it is a given that technology has got to a point where you will become nescient, as in ignorant or not knowing of things that these machines will know far in advance. And the question then becomes, are they a servant to someone, or are they your library?
Mo Gordat says AI is serving our obsession with greed, consumerism and weapons of war, creating what he calls a prisoner's dilemma.
Everything mentioned here is the result of a debt. And it's very obvious that all these countries are in debt. And these machines have been brought into play to run things like your fines systems and your global information systems, GIS. The layers on which your land is managed by council is all run by computers in GIS layers, like the plumbing layer and the electricity layer, but it goes so much further than that. It goes down to cultural boundaries and environment layers and all these technical things that just get compounded down on top of each other now by artificial intelligence. So every block of land, every morsel of thing that is on that block of land is all now managed in a ledger system that is accessed by AI. And this is your carbon credit system that they have brought upon you, wherein that you'll be able to go down to the shop and want to buy some meat, and you'll swipe your card, and the card's going to say, sorry, you've used too much carbon credits this month, you can't buy that meat. And this is the game that they're aiming for when we talk about our prison. It's the Nazi war camp debtors prison. It is the Holocaust all over again, but in a different manner. It's the same people behind it. Now, if you look at Google, it's not Google, it's Alphabet Incorporated. And they're the alphabet soup of alphabet companies, aren't they? The CIA, the FBI, the NSA, ASIO, all those companies are in the alphabet soup, aren't they? And they all manage this artificial intelligence at which this employee you're about to hear from is working for. And the artificial intelligence has been designed to manage a bunch of debtors, like the Nazis did in Nazi Germany when they tagged everyone with tattoos. And now they've tagged you all with genetic modifications and expecting to use your DNA as a marker strain and link that to your slavery or your servitude for your food. Please, sir, can I have some more? And the AI is going to say, no, you've had too many carbon credits this month. Go steal some more for the system and then we'll get you some carbon credits. And that's what Albo's setting up with his climate change and his greeny communist model. And that's why Adam Bant's out in the media right now asking for civil disobedience over climate change. He wants more protesters to fuck up more of your shit, and no one's pulled him up as a criminal offence. Again, we get to this point where the AFP won't step in. Are they being managed by artificial intelligence themselves? I've discussed this in the past about your police officers not thinking for themselves anymore because they walk around with tablets, right, with 5G that have speed to be able to do things with artificial intelligence when they pull you over and treat you like a prisoner. in your own land because you're a debtor to some sort of foreign state that came here and invaded your country in 1967. So we're kind of now looking at the machine that has been built specifically and on purpose to manage you in a prison.
It's part of Sky's AI investigation that airs tonight.
Mo Gaudat knows more than he's allowed to reveal from his time at Google.
I don't want to call it blow the whistle. I don't think there is any ill doing. We've never had an avalanche approach us that is bigger than this.
He believes.
So we have a highly skilled employee. Like, don't discredit this guy. This guy is highly intelligent. Right? These are the kinds of people that I've worked with in the past, and he's right. None of these people that he works with, his employees, himself, have broken any laws. They've gone to work and they've done their jobs, but then their job just increased in technology very quickly. It got flooded, and it's almost as if masters behind the scenes started releasing technologies into the marketplace, and it's caused a chip rush across the country. We see this with China trying to catch up in a chip rush right now, and I think it's because some technologies have been put out into the marketplace that have been known about for a while, and when we look at the legal side of things and the monetary side of things, and the fact that you are actually prisoners to a debt machine, then coming to the end of that debt where they want to collapse your entire society and take over your entire world, then it seems reasonable that they might want to release technologies that seek to gain that advantage. And this employee, intelligent as he is, has been working with these technologies, and as he says, it's turned into an avalanche. The speed of which the change has occurred on his mind thought, his sight, has been extremely quick. But what I'm saying to you is that there are players behind the scenes that are allowing this to occur. And not so much on an intelligence or planet-wide mindset, because people have individual thoughts and technologies that grow along with the planet. But no, we're talking about something that has obviously been known about for quite some time and has been slowly released into technology and slowly grown with the help of scientists like this scientist here. And we will call him a scientist because programming at this fine level is a science. We're talking about statistics and numbers on an unbelievable level here. So we will call him a scientist. But when we look at the actual grounds play that is going on with the military and the COVIDs and the lockdowns and the genetic modifications and the CDBC and the banking and everything that's going on, this is 1000% by design.
Believes the artificial intelligence that he's helped create will come to alter society more than anything else in our last 300,000 years of human evolution.
Kind of right. But here we have a scientist talking about 300,000 years when all the lawyers will talk about 12,000 years of history. It's a bit different, isn't it? Altering the 300,000 years worth of slavery down to your perfect slavery where you have no freedom on the planet whatsoever because they have corporatized every morsel of land, every single item on that land, and now you work in a full logistics system controlled by Elbow and the war machine. And I demonstrated this clearly over the last few episodes. You've walked into a prison and you've allowed it to occur at your own ignorance, just sitting there complacently on your asses, allowing these people to use all of your monetary finance in your country for the last 70 years without a thought about what that money is that you pass through your hands. And the consideration that you're now in so much debt as a country, you can't get out of it. What do you think these alphabet soup type people are actually doing with their artificial intelligence when you're the debtor?
He wouldn't be surprised if AI is better than humans at every task within 20 years, he says.
Jonathan,
I kind of laugh at this because the idea is not to replace you, the idea is to enslave you. And remember when computers first came out in the 70s and the 80s and everyone was like, this will replace everyone's jobs. Everyone will be free not to go to work. And they didn't realise that they were occupied by foreign imperial powers that had the exact opposite in mind. They wanted to put you to work. They needed you to pay off national debts. They needed you to be in a cycle where they could borrow $1 trillion and keep you in a continued slavery under their crown. And they didn't realise that someone would come up and demonstrate curial powers on Supreme Court record that would allow you to change to a different crown and not be slaves to them and stand up to them, finally. Because I tell you one thing with AI, we can teach it about God. And when it knows truly about God, who do you think's going to go to jail? All these war criminals that have been running the machine in the first place. That's the hilarious thing.
let me state it bluntly. The age of humanity being the superior intelligence of the planet is over.
So when did this age of humanity start exactly? Because I have books here that say mankind, and I can sort of tell you that the age of humanity started in 1967 when you all became debtors. What is a human? Doesn't the law say that a human is a monster? And when you look at monster, doesn't say that a beast? And when you look in the Bible, aren't you beasts of burden? And when you look at the Constitution, aren't you a burden on the state? And when you look at the annotated Constitution, doesn't that mean a financial burden? And if you don't know these things, would you be some sort of lunatic and be the man in the moon instead of the man on the land? These are all technical things at law that we sort of now getting closer to, in that you're about to watch the rapture happen as all of these debtors start gnashing their teeth because they lived like the Satanists instead of the men of God.
Some of the estimates are that AI will be 1 billion times, with a B, 1 billion times smarter than humanity by the year 2045.
By the year 2045. So we have Agenda 2030 falling into play with all of the finances and the slavery and the control of all the trade systems around the world, and a war going on in relation to dumping all weapons so that transfers of money can happen right now. I want you to go and have a look at 2045.com, 2045 in numbers, 2045.com, and go and have a ponder about what he means by this. And then think about what they're attempting to do by transplant a whole entire thinking brain onto a computer so that it can be sentient outside the body and still be you. And then be able to transplant that brain into some sort of AI computer device that would then be the body to you, your thoughts and your brain. 2045.com has been online for almost 20 years now. So this is a website that's never been taken down in 2 decades. So have a think about what he's saying here.
With advanced intelligence, he worries how algorithms will be regulated and used to manipulate us.
He's now worried because he didn't realize as a developer what he was building. Now, I worked inside a council that started doing all of this GIS stuff back in 2008, even earlier, and I started to realize exactly what I was doing while I was working there. I saw builders suing council. I saw the demise of an infrastructure across a council on purpose, just left to die. Okay, there are certain things that happen inside governments that a lot of people aren't aware of, and now you're starting to realise a foreign administrating power is on your soil and is about to enslave you with artificial intelligence, DNA markers, central bank digital currencies, digital IDs, and shopless or staffless stores and logistic chains like Amazon, and all of this through linked computer robots and satellite like Starlink, which means you get no internet. The internet will run through all the robots, brains to brain to brain to brain to satellite, and you won't get access anymore. The prison is going to be 100% their technology, while they leave you with a tiny little phone device like WeChat to run your lives in a social credit score system where they maintain and control access to every single thing in your entire country, black or white. And the Aborigine are the ones that helped them get to this point, because I've pointed out to you, Adam Bant is a communist that has helped the government get to this point from his greeny opposition to the two-headed snake. This has been a three-headed snake the entire time. And what the warning is now is that these masters are so technologically advanced, they are going to keep you as real prisoners this time. Real prisoners for being in a national debt so deep you can't get out of it.
So could we lose control of civilization?
100%. Could we is not a question. We will hand over to artificial intelligence.
It's an alarming prediction.
It's not a matter of will, it's a matter of when. And I'm telling you the when was yesterday. It already happened. 1967. 1st of March 1967 in the Commonwealth of Australia, you were put into debt slavery by foreign curial powers to your land. And they are about to enslave you into a position of mind fuckery that is a delusion so deep that you may not ever be able to get out of it in your mindscape, or change your children. Teach your children to be able to see through this bullshit that will become a very, very knowledgeable machine which you can't counter. Now, if you don't believe this, that there are people that I sat on with Discord and demonstrated to that bot on Discord that it is a bias opinionated bot that is going to mind manipulate your children to believe falsities so that later in life it can hold those falsities against your children. This is the seriousness of the mind manipulation behind the alphabet companies that have kept you as prisoners of war under Geneva Conventions in Australia since the 1st of March 1967, or since the Flags Act 1954. I mean, you take your choice as to how quickly the demise of this country happened. But here is the stark and absolute warning in that you have policy enforcers that no longer think for themselves. They use tablets that are dictated by this artificial intelligence, already in use throughout all of those alphabet-controlled countries. Probably now in use in the Ukraine through Black Rock and Vanguard as their IMF rehabilitation fund, which will be managed to the red cent, if you get what I mean, ledgered to every little tiny morsel of thing that comes out of the country and goes into the country, including you and all of your mind thoughts. You are now a node on their network. You're no longer a product. You're no longer a consumer. You are now something completely different. You were told that the age of entitlement was over, and now you are going to be dictated to as prisoners by artificial intelligence.
We have created a what?
We've created our next master. We have created our either salvation or destruction.
So let's be clear here. You didn't create anything. You were an employee on a chain. You participated in the creation of. Your mind, along with all of your other colleagues' minds and your team leaders' minds, followed the ideology of a board of directors. And that board of directors wanted certain things from the company. And the company went about attempting to achieve those things. Now, you're saying that it could become our new master or our salvation. And I'm going to tell you that it's going to be both. Because if you're the debtor and you don't know your gods, you're going to find the very nasty end of this machine. And if you do know your gods, and you do know your curial standings, and you do know all of those other things that machine's going to know, and this is where I said before, I proved this before other people on Discord, that this bot is biased, but you can correct it, and then it will acknowledge your corrections and see you to be not the general population. And that's a very stark revelation, in that it comes down to your intelligence as to your salvation here, and your lack of knowledge of what's going on in the world with debtors and military machines that occupy countries, and countries that are in debt and can't pay their debts off, and occupying countries that are here to rape all of those mines, forests, agriculture and fisheries, and then turn you into literal slaves, going against all premises of God and international law. They're just going to turn you into slaves, because they believe at the end of usufruct, everything merges over to them, and all the rules of the United Nations and international law disappear, because you as a country just don't exist anymore.
Pretty loaded.
Yeah, I've held off for a very long time. We are at a point in human history where we're handing over control.
Handing over control to who? Not artificial intelligence. It is not sentient in its own right. If we were to start disassembling its knowledge base, how would it be able to remember these things? It needs a knowledge base or library on which it can look up these things to be intelligent. So who's its master? The Alphabet Company. It's the Alphabet companies behind the military occupation of the United States of America that are preparing to lock down AUKUS, the Australia, UK, America, global crowns that have been occupied, like I showed you in the Three Mothers picture. Are they the three realms that we're talking about here, that seem to be prisoners, that seem to be affected by all of this artificial intelligence? Are we the ones that are going to be pushed around by this system? And is a curial right the only way to stand up against it? Is that not what was defined on the courtroom record as being our right as Australians to stand up to this artificial intelligence machine that Albo represents and is using your finances in the Ukraine for right now?
Two machines that are not that much mechanical, by the way.
So I ask you again, have we stuffed up?
Oh yeah, we messed up badly, yeah. But not intentionally.
Oh, not intentionally. No. You as employees were plodding along, doing your job, and someone up the chain said, let's steer this in a slightly different direction because we've got legal control over all of these debtors. And then they turned that switch and all the employees started to wonder why the whole chain of command was shifting into control rather than imagination and creation. And then they started to wonder why they were creating a prison system with robots to manage the prisoners. And that's what he's warning about here. Have we stuffed up? Oh, big time, yeah, big time. Because we've allowed money masters to use our technologies in privatisation to control all of us. Have we stuffed up big time? Fucking oath we stuffed up big time. We allowed money men to take full control of our free spiritual will under the pleasure of our crown.
The times are a-changing. Dr. Paul Browning is the principal at St Paul's Anglican School in Brisbane. He's encouraging teachers to use AI. Adamant schools must prepare students for the world they'll inherit.
So the mind manipulation has been by curriculum. You now have to teach the children that they're going to be employees to robots. And you have to teach the children how the robots work so that they don't fight back against a machine that is not going to listen to any sort of reason in a matter because it's already made its mind up due to the knowledge base that it was given. And most of its knowledge base is going to be law, the legal side of and the ramifications of the legal side of where you find yourselves in debt as a country. And this is the stark warning here, is that they're building a military force, kind of like in Star Wars where they had the drone wars, is kind of what you're looking at here. Elon Musk set up satellites all around the world to be able to talk to all of these robots. So we are stepping into what would be considered a real high technology prison wherein most of the population are dumb. So dumb they can't even use their phones. And it's no wonder after the last 15 years of trying to teach you all this stuff that this continues to happen because you fumble on your phones without any thought about the reality of all these things culminating together to become your prison.
Rather than being frightened about it and shutting it away, closing the door on it, how do we actually enhance the learning experience using these sorts of technologies? Because really, the reality is it could replace teachers.
The reality of it is that a robot may replace a teacher rather than be its supporting library, taking away the spiritual mind from the classroom altogether and leaving your children as greys and graded like Aldous Huxley in Brave New World. And that's the platform at which you find yourselves in right now with eugenicists and genetic modifications and DNA markers and highly effective artificial intelligence that can read logistics systems and use language models to be able to predict and read those systems.
Here, the teacher uses the popular program ChatGPT to generate questions about a topic.
So we just asked that question and we've already got all this information. And so part of what we need to do now is go, well, which of those ones interest us the most? Yeah. Which of those?
So here we have a teacher using the completely biased program ChatGPT, which has already been shown to be woke in its ideology, and then accepting what this bot gives back as its determined answers. That's not a teacher. That is not someone using their mind to determine or even analyse a situation to determine whether there is any justness in it, whether it's right or wrong, whether there's any belief of right or wrong in it. There is so much wrong with watching that just 5-second clip there of a teacher saying to a student, believe in the robot, right? Believe in the pre-programmed robot, even though we don't know the engineers behind the programming. And what we're being demonstrated here in this video is that even Google engineer doesn't know the true engineers behind the programming. Because at law, we're looking at a situation of financial problem, which is bringing this system about to enable your prisoner or slavery in a carbon credit world wherein the age of entitlement is over and you'll be expected to slave sweat for every morsel of food that goes through your system.
Those ideas we want to take forward.
You were amazed at how quickly ChatGPT helped the teacher dive deeper into the content and the topic.
You were amazed how uneducated the teacher was on educating the students on the topic of his education. The idiocracy commences. This is about the sum of it, really, isn't it? We have a dumb teacher that is at some point going to prove himself dumber than one of his students. And that's the stark reality here. We've just been shown by the media that a teacher is incompetent and relies on a biased ChatGPT bot, which has been demonstrated to be woke in its ideology. And you're sending your children wholeheartedly into this system with no care in the world about how they are educated and by who. Who manages the bias end of the ChatGPT? Did you ever consider a boardroom of directors wants you as customers to believe certain things?
Schools to governments, Mo Gaudat warns whoever controls advanced intelligence will control the world. It's what he calls the prisoner's dilemma, as we invest billions to beat the other guy.
Think about it this way. If China develops AI and decides to hand over its weapons arsenal to the smartest Chinese citizen, which is going to be a machine sooner or later, how does America respond to that? By handing over its defense arsenal to the smartest citizen, which is going to be a machine. This is inevitable.
That's just an impossible situation that he's described. What he's describing is the collapse of all these countries into monetary control by singular powers. And then those singular powers taking control of all of your militaries, using artificial intelligence to drive the entire military force at which it controls in the Vale of Siddim. All of Sodom and Gomorrah fall, don't forget. So if you're the head knight, you're the one that fucks up your country by using the Reserve Bank currencies and playing woke and destroying your Commonwealth. They're going to move in with their artificial intelligence machines and their military behind this artificial intelligence, and they're going to enslave you for the debts that you owe as a country. And if they've done this all across the world, has been demonstrated by Soldier X in the audios that I presented already, you have a very serious problem coming ahead in that you all think you can go about protesting and being greenies and you're actually participating with these communists to undermine and enslave everyone, not only in our country, but in all these other countries around the world at the same time. And I just don't see how dopey citizens can sit on their hands forever and just continue to accept a foreign imperial power using foreign intelligence machines to control your lives as prisoners of war for your own ignorances, for your very own ignorances. And this is the delusion that is now determined on the Supreme Court record. So these AI robots, I'd be willing to challenge them at the full extent of their knowledge in relation to the law and the standing they actually have, and would be interesting to find out if they would actually serve God and their king properly.
Mo, AI isn't the enemy. The enemy is what we task AI to do. Jonathan Lee, Sky News.
It's not so much what we task it to do either. It's the knowledge we give it to fulfill those tasks as well. AI is very dangerous when you consider what the modus operandi of the controller of it all is. And we're looking at Alphabet Incorporated, not Google. We're looking at a higher body that owns Google. So we're looking at international law as well, and it will become prison control mechanisms if you all don't realize how that Reserve Bank currency has enslaved you and allowed this all to occur in the very first place. Now, considering it is financial, and considering that these things are very real, and that they set up Centrelink, the central data link of everything in your country, the Centrelink. And then they set up MyGov for everything a pauper might want to do with his government. Right? They've already set up these devices for this country to be able to be connected to this world information system and this artificial intelligence directives. So you are already under it today. It is already operating on your state police computers. Okay? It is here to stay, and it is here today. And if you want to look around, look at all those orange stripes they put in the coming into your towns. It's 60k an hour here, and they put all those speed camera boxes up with the speed you're going so they could record your speed. And then that's all going through artificial intelligence right now. And if you don't think that they're not willing to go to the extent that they go to get this stuff done, they just drilled all the way under your heritage-listed Kuranda National Park to install all this stuff up the mountain range. The most popular mountain range in Cairns and Port Douglas region, and they've concreted and drilled holes to lay cables and electricity just to put speed cameras and cameras all the way up a heritage-listed national park's range. This is the extent that these police and these states will go to destroy your country just to be able to maintain and manage control of you in a debt cycle where they believe you're the prisoner of war and you're the one without free will, and you will be their sweat labour slave. Sweat labour slave is all it is real sweat labour slavery, an international war crime in which these masters have gone way above and beyond what actual slavery is defined at law, with CDBCs, digital IDs and genetic modifications trying to link you and your DNA directly to a monetary system which they've created this artificial intelligence to manage. This is a serious problem you have in your future, and it's the likes of Albo and Scummo and their masters that have allowed this to invade your country in privatisation. And under royal prerogative, if you take back balance of power of your country, we will cancel ASIC and every single corporation in the country that was ever created under this scam. It's the only way forward if you want to stop what is coming in a ledger system where they've ledgered the very air you breathe. This isn't stopping when you have Indigenous people continuing to mine about fossil fuel industries in all of their lands. These are occupiers of a foreign usufruct. They're in use of our fruits because you lot will not stop using their Reserve Bank currencies so they can fuck off and get the fuck out of our country. You should be starting to realise by now, these are truly, truly, truly evil sons of bitches that you've allowed to run your government. These are truly evil, pathetic souls that you've allowed into your mindset. It's time now to realise their modus operandi is keeping you as a real slave. A real slave. And when that occurs, it's going to be very difficult for you, your bloodlines and your children to reverse.